I spent years in IT before I remembered that I wanted to do this, YouTube. Not as a fallback, not as a side project. The thing I'd actually wanted before life stepped in and offered me something with a salary and a pension, and a reason to stop asking awkward questions about what I was doing with my time. I'm not unique in that. Most people I know over 30 have a version of that story. Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead is not about zombies. I know that sounds like a bit, it's not. The zombies are set dressing. What the show is actually about is the thing you gave up, and why you gave it up, and whether it's too late to go back for it. If you're under 25, this is probably a fun zombie anime with some sharp comedy and a likeable protagonist. If you're past 30, it's gonna feel uncomfortably like being caught out. Episode 1, Akira is running for his life. Zombies behind him, reasonable chance he's about to die. And then mid-sprint, the thought that surfaces is not about survival, not about the people he loves. It's, I never have to go back to that office. And the world changes colour, literally. The show cuts from a grey, beige palette, the visual shorthand for a life that ran out of texture, to neon, vivid, almost violent in how bright it is. One cut. If you're 22, that's a great visual gag. But if you spent enough years watching your weeks disappear into work that didn't matter in a role you drifted into rather than chose, that colour shift is not a joke about office jobs. It's describing something you already carry. The grey is not a stylistic choice. It's the show telling you what it thinks your life looks like from the outside. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no fork in the road, no moment where you consciously pick the other side. It happens in increments, a reasonable decision, a practical compromise. You tell yourself it's temporary, then temporary becomes normal, then normal is the only option you can see from where you're standing. The show earns this. 3 years of Akira's working life are compressed into one episode, and the details it picks are unglamorous on purpose. He sleeps under his desk, the overtime he puts in will never be paid back. The person he had a crush on, the last small reason to show up, turns out to be sleeping with the boss. He can hear them through the office wall. That last detail is the show being specifically, carefully cruel. It's not a dramatic betrayal, it's the final reason to stop caring. Showing up quietly, the way those reasons do. Look, if this is landing, if you've got your own version of that list somewhere, subscribe. This channel is what happened when I finally wrote mine. There's new videos like this every week. By the time the zombies arrive, Akira isn't someone who hates his job. He's someone who has forgotten there was ever another option. That's the drift. And if you recognise it, the colour shift in episode 1 just became personal. Think about what it actually took. Not a bad week, not a rough quarter, not a single terrible Monday that finally broke him. It took the collapse of civilization. Society had to end. The streets had to fill with the dead. Every structure Akira had built his life around, the commute, the overtime, the performance of being a functional adult with a career, had to be physically destroyed before he could see a way out. That's the joke the show is making. It's a very dark joke. Because the trap was never locked, the door was open the whole time. Akira could have walked out of that office on any given Tuesday. Nothing was physically stopping him, but the weight of it, the normalcy of it, the sense that this is just what life is and you're naive if you think otherwise, that weight is real. And for a lot of people, it takes something seismic to move it. Now, I keep saying over 30. I want to be precise about that. It's not about the number, it's about how much life you've had time to live. Some people get there at 26, some are 40 and still haven't felt it, because they moved fast or got lucky, or never stopped questioning the direction they were heading. The age gate isn't a birthday, it's accumulated weight, enough years spent doing what was expected rather than what was wanted. Akira's 24 in the show, and he's already buried. That's the point. It doesn't take long, and it doesn't announce itself when it's happening. The show doesn't stop there. It puts the thesis in the background and runs it for the entire series. Watch the zombies, not the action sequences, the zombies. The salarymen are still in their suits, the delivery drivers are still on their routes, the office workers are still carrying their laptops through the end of civilization, shambling, rotting, still clocked in. The show is not being subtle. It is pointing directly at the screen and saying the gap between a zombie and someone who hates their job but goes in anyways is mostly technical. One of them has a pulse, neither of them is making a choice. The apocalypse didn't produce these zombies, the jobs did. The apocalypse just dropped the pretense. The question it leaves running under every scene is how much pretense you're still carrying, which is why the bucket list matters more than it first appears. Akira survives the first day, accepts he's probably going to die, and writes a list. 100 things he wants to do before that happens. And the list is ordinary. Not ordinary in a modest, admirable way, ordinary in the way that makes you feel slightly embarrassed for him, and then immediately embarrassed for yourself. Drink a cold beer on a rooftop. Get a superhero costume made. Tell someone he loves them. This is what 3 years of that produces. A life on his own terms, stripped down to a wish list because he couldn't access any of it while the job was running. Then there's Kencho. Best friend, always wanted to be a comedian, as the actual thing, not as a hobby. Had that dream at 20 the way you have dreams at 20, like wanting something badly enough is basically most of the work. Then the excuses compound. Then it became the thing he used to want, which is a different thing entirely. The apocalypse gave him a stage. Watching him perform badly with genuine desperation underneath the mess of it is uncomfortable in a way the show earns. The embarrassment and the necessity happening at the same time. The thing he wanted finally happening 10 years too late for it to look the way he imagined. You probably know someone who fits that. There's a reasonable chance you are that person. Akira runs into his old boss, and he falls apart. The compliance, the anxiety, 3 years of muscle memory, all of it back at the sight of the man's face. The zombie apocalypse freed his circumstances. It didn't touch what that job actually did to him though. The show is honest about what that costs to fix. He has to go back, face it, choose it himself. Nobody's going to do that for him. The apocalypse didn't save Akira, it just removed the excuse. Zom 100 is not asking you to quit your job. It's not telling you that ambition is everything and comfort is failure and you should burn your CV and follow your bliss off a cliff. The argument is smaller than that, and harder. The version of you that had something they wanted before the compromises, before the increments, before temporary became normal, that version didn't disappear, they just stopped getting asked. Akira's bucket list isn't a grand plan, it's a man remembering he's allowed to want things. That's the whole show. And the reason it lands differently once you've lived enough to recognise the drift is because by then you know what it costs to ignore the question. You've paid some of it already. The colour shift in episode 1 works because it's not wish fulfillment, it's recognition. The show isn't showing you a fantasy, it's showing you something you already know, but haven't said out loud. You don't need an apocalypse. You need to ask the question Akira stopped asking 3 years before the zombies showed up. What is it you actually want to do with your time? Not when things settle down, not when the mortgage is smaller and the kids are older and the moment is finally right. Now.